I just wanted to be that resource for physicians so that they would have somebody else to bounce things off as. So I really enjoyed just the fact of kind of being your own scientist. Pediatrics is still my first love. A lot of times you think about these like, oh, this problem is so big, it needs a big solution. Where
Mhm.
really, if you can just make the first little step, you're on your way to changing things. There's a lot of talk about motivational interviewing, and coaching is really in that motivational interviewing space. It is just kind of giving prompts so people can do their own self reflection and find out what is their best or their next step in reaching whatever that long term goal is that they have.
Welcome to DPC Life, the podcast where independent doctors share real stories, bold ideas, and the freedom of doing medicine on your own terms. I'm your host, Dr. Ann Gonzalez, and together we'll explore the wins, the struggles, and everything in between. Let's dive in. Hi, and welcome back to DPC Life. This is a podcast where we talk with different DPC docs who have opened their practices and built their practices to fit around their lives. I opened up my DPC 4 years ago with a partner, Dr. Rachel Kelly. We have a couple of episodes previous to this where we talk about different topics related to DPC, but one thing that it's really interesting, it's really sad actually, and we were very fortunate to be able to do, because we have a DPC practice. A year ago, actually almost to the day, Hurricane Helene hit North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee. It just came up from the Gulf of Mexico, hit several states. Western North Carolina, it had several days, I think 2-3 days of just heavy rains prior to Helene coming. And so that combined with Helene and the way that Helene just stalled out over the area and dumped so much water, it caused massive flooding. Many people lost their lives, lost their homes, lost everything, their businesses, their properties, their cars, all of their belongings. It was horrible. It was horrible. And even though we live in Morganton, which is about an hour east of Asheville, where a lot of people just lost everything, we were still affected because we had all of that kind of downstream runoff of water from the Catawba River. It actually flooded in my town. We couldn't get out from our house for a couple of days because the river flooded our road. Couldn't get across, needed a kayak or something to get out. And even still, places were closed because they'd been flooded. So Rachel, my partner, and I, we were trying to figure out how can we help. And we heard about this group at the Hickory Airport that was delivering supplies and medicines to people who were cut off by the hurricane because of the floodwaters. The roads and bridges were washed out. A lot of these people lived in remote areas and they weren't able to get out. So there's a group called Operation Hilo that had started, I think they started in Texas, but they go around to different places where hurricanes have affected, and they basically do the same thing. They deliver supplies using helicopters to areas where you can't get a car or truck or convoys. And so we were able to go and help these efforts at the airport. And because we are direct primary care doctors, we were able to tell our patients, hey, we've got to go and do this to help people. And they were fine. No one complained that we rescheduled their appointments. No one said, what about me? They all knew that this was to help the community and to help people who were in need. So they didn't mind. And in fact, they were super generous in giving donations of money and supplies that we then brought to the airport, and the helicopter pilots, they took these out. The military was involved, National Guard. So it was a great community effort. People in Hickory and Morganton, all around surrounding areas, were delivering supplies to be donated to people in need. And they would come to the airport. They brought their medicines and blankets, clothing, cleaning supplies, you name it. They were bringing it all. So when we were at the airport, we were stationed in the medical section. There were a couple of nurses, a few nurse practitioners, some pharmacists. There was one other physician, He's a semi-retired pediatrician. And then there was us, because no one else could get off from their fee-for-service jobs, their hospital-employed jobs, their insurance-based jobs, to come out and help. And we had the flexibility to get out there, and we spent days helping out, organizing medicines. We were able to order medications from our suppliers. People donated medicines. People in the DPC community were wonderful, and they sent us medicine. They sent nebulizers. They sent supplies. With those, we were able to make care packages to give to other clinics in the area that had lost everything because of the floods. So being a DPC doctor has put us in a very unique situation where we can help our community so much easier than other doctors in fee-for-service could. So we are both very grateful that we are DPC doctors and we could help in this way. So that's one way that DPC has changed our lives and made things better for us, because we knew that we could reschedule our patients, go and do these things that needed to be done, and there was no red tape. We could just do it. So very grateful again that we are doing DPC. Very grateful for all of the DPC doctors that helped, that donated supplies and medicines from all over the country. It was really, truly incredible. So anyway, all that rambling to say that I am extremely grateful that I am a direct primary care doctor, and glad that I can help my community in ways that other doctors unfortunately can't, because of the way that their employment is structured. And I think it's a wonderful way to practice, and I hope that more people are able to get out of the fee-for-service system and into DPC because of the flexibility. There's so many reasons why, but this is just one of those. So let's go on to our episode today with Dr. Crystal Vernon. She's a pediatrician in Tennessee, and she's a partner at her practice, but she also has another business, which is catering to physicians with children with ADHD. And I felt she would be a wonderful guest for the show, just because it's something that I know a lot of my physician friends deal with, and having children with ADHD. And I thought she would be a really great resource for our listeners in case they have a child with ADHD that they feel like they need help and guidance in learning how to help their child thrive. So thanks for being here, and here we go with Dr. Crystal Vernon. Today I have Dr. Crystal Vernon with me. She's a pediatrician, graduate from University of Tennessee Health Science Center, and then did peds residency at University of Kentucky. And she practices at Premier Medical Group in Clarksville, Tennessee. She is also a physician coach, which is fascinating, and she coaches mainly physicians, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, with and how to parent complex children. And her business, her side gig, it's called Dr. Anonymous Coaching. That's a great name.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A little bit about the name. Like when I was younger in my practice and had small kids at home, I remember there were a lot of times as a pediatrician, I was just like, oh my goodness. Like there were things that, I had questions about, and I didn't know, like, on the parenting side versus the pediatrician side, and that made me feel a little bit shameful. And I noticed that a lot of people post in physician groups, and I thought, there's a really big niche for that.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm glad you found it, because I think it's fantastic. I remember my daughter she was my oldest, so it was my first child. I think she was 6, and she had a cough for a couple weeks, and she was fine. Like she was acting fine. And so I brought her to the pediatrician finally, because I was like, oh, it's getting kind of long. And he's sitting there listening to her, and his face goes, and I was like, what? He said, have you listened to her? I said, no. Why? And she sounded awful. I was like, oh my God. What kind of parent?
I always had the frame of mind that I was my kid's parent, not their doctor. And I never listened to my kids unless I was the only one on call.
Right. Yeah. So that's why I didn't listen to her. I was trying to do the same thing. So, okay. Well, let's talk about how you got into, really how you got into the coaching, and then, which came first, the coaching or the Dr. Anonymous, and then I'll just let you free reign, talk about what you want to talk about, because any little bit I think will
Sure.
be very helpful.
So I'll talk about the coaching side of stuff first, because
Mm-hmm.
I did get into coaching when I started using coaching for my own self as part of a weight loss
Mm-hmm.
initiative. And so I really enjoyed that kind of future focused mindset of really just how do you effect change going forward. So not looking back, not trying to solve past problems, just looking forward and making your life better in whatever meaningful way that is for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really did enjoy that piece of coaching. And then fast forward just a little bit during COVID, I had started in my pediatric practice realizing that I was using examples from my own childhood when I would do ADHD evaluations and that sort of thing. And then it started to click for me that I probably had ADHD. And so life started making a whole lot more sense. And I recognized that, a lot of the struggles that I have or I've encountered with parents that they bring up to me are, you know, the vast majority are kind of behavioral things that fall into categories of either neurodivergence or with some mental health stuff. So in all of that, with my own diagnosis and then really enjoying coaching, I have done a big deep dive into mainly ADHD behavioral side of coaching, but also I have a fairly decent sized medically complex practice. Local pediatrician had retired and I inherited a lot of his patients. And so I also know that there's a lot of parents struggling with the medically complex patient population too. So I just wanted to be that resource for physicians so that they would have somebody else to bounce things off of. So I do individual coaching in any of those domains. And then I have some coursework that I have done on one on ADHD and then another one on kind of calming chaos,
Mm-hmm.
just like the chaotic life of parenting. So yeah.
Sound fantastic. That's how I found you. And I honestly, I don't remember exactly how I found you, but I remember the Dr. Anonymous and then
Mhm,
parenting for children with ADHD. And so
mhm.
when you talk to these parents, are you ever like, wait a second, I think you have ADHD?
Well, I think that that happens both in the coaching realm, but also in the medical practice realm, because we do know that there is a high heritability of ADHD. So sometimes we will dive into that sometimes.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And do parents, when they hear that, they start to get kind of the light bulb moment as well, like you were? What?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes. Now, what I will often do, and it's not necessarily by design of trying to get the parent to buy into recognizing it in themselves, but sometimes as we talk about how the skills develop over a lifetime and how ADHD affects adults differently than it affects children, then parents will sometimes see a little bit more of those light bulbs too.
Fascinating. So the coaching, you got coached on coaching. Tell me about that. How did
Yes.
you get into that?
So when after I had been doing my own coaching as a client, and I decided that I wanted to do some coaching, probably for physicians, but I wasn't quite sure. And I didn't know exactly what domain I wanted to be in. So I did find Surgeon Masters, which has a physician coaching program. And so they they teach physicians as well as some other healthcare extenders how to bring coaching. And the vast majority of that training was, I would say most of our practice coaching was around practice management and lifestyle, kind of work life balance, things like that. But with the pediatrician side of things, the parenting thing just kind of fell in and seemed to be a good fit.
Mhm. So that coaching program, I guess it's not just for surgeon. It's called Surgeon Masters. I just
Correct.
assumed.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. fascinating because some other people who are listening may be interested in doing that.
Mhm. Yeah. So the founder is an orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Jeffrey Smith, and he really has brought coaching into not only the medicine side of things, but then he really enjoyed coaching and thought it was such a useful benefit that he created this program to help others coach. And there are quite a few who are either business owners or in administrative positions within businesses, and also some that are in the education side of medicine. So residency directors and things like that will come through and learn coaching skills that they can use.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
And when you went into the coaching, how many years of practice, like, were you in already? Or were you
At
fairly?
that point, probably 17-ish.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did that change the way you treated your patients? Did it kind of make you more aware of how you were trying to educate and, motivate
Yeah.
them?
Yeah. So I think of coaching, when we talk about effecting change for our patients, and I think about like around obesity, for example, there's a lot of talk about motivational interviewing, and coaching is really in that motivational interviewing space. It is just kind of giving prompts so people can do their own self reflection and find out what is their best or their next step in reaching whatever that long term goal is that they have.
Yes, actually, it's really interesting. I was thinking about it the other day that, as a DPC doctor, you have to know how to sell yourself essentially, right? You have to sell the idea of DPC, and sales is kind of like motivational interviewing, right?
Mhm.
You have to find what that person needs and kind of
Mhm.
get them to that point where they realize, oh, this really is what I need to do.
Yeah. And I think that, as I have brought more coaching tactics into my medical practice, when people recognize that that's kind of part of the way that I see my patients too, that's a practice style that a lot of people do appreciate.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So let's see. How about, if you don't mind, if there's a couple things that you can share with physician parents that, as far as how to, not even necessarily medically complex kids, but
Hmm.
things that would help parents that are super busy. A lot of physicians are married
Sure.
to other physicians, and what
Hmm.
what kind of tips can you give that would be helpful?
I have really started using this, what I consider the CPR approach with parenting, but it can really work with any kind of relationship. So the first thing is connecting and really putting the relationship ahead of the other stuff. Second thing is helping each other solve problems. And particularly for kids, when the lifetime goal is for them to be productive members of their own households and that they can really lead their own lives going through adulthood. I found that a lot of times when we go through adolescence, we're still in that younger parenting stage where we're still telling kids a lot of the things that they need to do, where they need to be really learning how to do things for themselves. And so asking them those questions, using some of this same coaching skills for them. So, how do you think that we can meet this goal together? Bedtime is a struggle and it's really hard every single night. What do you think is the biggest problem? And trying to engage them and helping with those solutions. And then the third thing is response. So, connection, problem solving, and response. And response is giving other people back what you would want to see from them. So if you want to see an explosive kid, explode at your kid. You know,
Mhm. Yeah, they
if
mirror.
you want
Mhm.
to see some calm and rational thinking and like some deep breathing and reflection, then model those things for your kids.
Uh-huh. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, because they learn
Yeah,
how to mirror what they see.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. So you started Dr. Anonymous how long ago? What year?
So I
2020?
started
Was it after
taking
COVID?
clients in just this year in 25.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was
Mhm.
thinking, okay, so COVID was more like the start of it, right?
So COVID time was when I was starting coaching for myself
Uh-huh.
for other reasons. And
Uh-huh.
then a couple of years in later, I started doing the coach training.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And then I kind of dallied with it a little bit, but wasn't like committed to like starting and focusing on building the business until this calendar year.
This year. What prompted you
Mhm.
like to get in there and really start this year?
Well, so I am certainly not an empty nester, but one of my kids has flown the coop into adult land. And so I had a little bit more time on my hand where I could really dedicate a little bit more to that. And so that would be part of it. Another part of it was really, I want to be able to focus on medicine. And this is kind of, I am not DPC. I actually am a practice in a private practice that takes insurance.
Are you a partner at your practice?
I am.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. That is stressful.
Yeah, and I love pediatrics, and I love our business, but I wanted a little bit of something that I knew that could bring in a little bit of mental reprieve too. Like it
Right.
brings happiness to me to be able to help other people too.
Yes.
And we don't have the kind of time that we need, I think, with patients, which is really a benefit and a service, I think, with DPC practices, is
Right.
that you have a lot more flexibility with that too.
It is. It is great. So because you started the Dr. Anonymous, did you have to cut back on time seeing your patients in the clinic, or you just kind of worked it in?
I just pretty much work it in.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, because if you think about it, most of us have very similar work schedules. Not everyone. There are some other people who have other work schedules, but because most people have a hard time taking off work to do, things for themselves, I have been known to coach people at 5 o'clock in the morning
Okay.
so because that works with their schedule. So
hmm
yeah,
Well, that's great.
I found it. Yeah.
You're meeting them where they are. That's awesome.
I am. I try. I try very hard. And recently, with this most recent enrollment, started with some group coaching sessions so that the times were more fixed and people could come in, go, and join and not feel that pressure of the commitment. Although I do still offer individual coaching too. So
Mhm, mhm. How big are your group sessions?
right now they're really small, in
Uh-huh.
the single digits.
Okay. That's
So
fine. That's pretty good because then you
yeah,
can get a good conversation going, and
yeah,
people don't feel quite so, I don't know, I guess, shy because it's just not that many
right.
people.
Yes. I wanted, and when I started enrollment, I did put a cap on it. I think I was a little generous to put a cap at like 15 or 20, but I was like, it's probably a little bit bigger. So it didn't end up feeling quite that full. So I was, thankful that we've got that smaller number for now.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you started this year. How has the response been?
It's been pretty good. I've had some people who have found me through some physician online groups, but I really did want to also kind of do a slow upstart just because I want to make sure that I can, pediatrics is still my first love. So I wanted to
Mhm,
be able to offer my best self there and then but also my best self to clients. So I didn't want those to grow too terribly fast. So
mhm,
I basically have just done some grassroots organic social media marketing and nothing much bigger than that yet. So
mhm,
maybe
mhm.
maybe soon.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, but then when you start that, it is kind of that balance of,
Hmm.
you want to show up for your patients kind of on both
Hmm.
sides. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Well, with the new business with Dr. Anonymous, is there anything in particular that you think this is working really well? Like you thought, okay, that worked. And then is there something where you thought, wow, I wouldn't have done business wise? I mean, like maybe I shouldn't have
Hmm.
done it that way, or I would have done it differently.
Yeah. While I say that I want it slow, I probably didn't intend for it to be 3 years before I started taking patients. Not patients, clients.
Client.
Because we do no medical care in the coaching realm,
Right.
none.
hmm
So
hmm
I always try to make that very clear up front. I'm not going to talk about medicine. We're not going to talk about we may talk about disease process just from an educational academic standpoint, but not like your specific kid's disease process. This was more just functional, like how are we going to get through day to day life and
hmm
just happening to know that we have this in the background. But yeah, it was a little bit slower, but I had, when I first started doing the certification and the training programs, I still had both my kids at home. And so I had a lot more running around to do, as you know, with teenagers. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So
it's been nice to take it at my own pace, but
yeah, you're ready to go.
yeah,
Sounds like.
I'm ready to grow soon. Yeah.
When you did the coaching, what part of the coaching did you enjoy the most?
So I really enjoyed just the fact of kind of being your own scientist, figuring out what your roadblocks were so that you could then make the small changes. And sometimes I didn't realize that the changes could be so small and make a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A lot of times you think about these like, oh, this problem is so big, it needs a big solution. But
Mm-hmm.
really, if you can just make the first little step, you're on your way to changing things.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, is there something else that you wanted to discuss?
Say, first of all, you're not alone. There are a lot of other doctors who are thinking a lot of the exact same things that you are, whatever that is. And I think that if you Google in any physician online group, you will see that you are not alone. It's just everybody thinks that they are, because we're not always real open to sharing about ourselves in our profession, I think. And we should be, and we should take care of ourselves so that we can keep taking care of others, both within our nuclear families, but also in the medical realm. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of that airplane analogy of parents put on your oxygen mask first before you assist your children.
Right. Yes. That's
Yeah.
so true. Yeah. Well, thank you. Yes, the whole point of this podcast is kind of to that point as well, that you're not alone.
Mhm.
And just for people who are trying to, or they're considering going into DPC, that there is a huge community now. It's just growing every day, and so that it's been, I mean, the community has been great. Everyone is always really willing to help. So that makes it hopefully easier for people to make that decision and decide to do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do love it. And I would be happy and open to talking with any of your listeners about what
Yes.
we have to offer. Yeah.
I know. Yes. I went to your website and I thought, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
And yes, I know. I mean, I know other doctor parents with children with ADHD. And so, yeah, I think you'll be very, very busy. I think now that you actually have gotten it off the ground.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't think you're going to have to do a whole lot of advertising. I think that word of mouth is really going to, send a lot of people towards you.
I love it. I'm excited. Yeah.
I am too. I hope to do your course soon.
Well, it is there. So
Yes.
we will probably, the next big enrollment after this podcast airs would be around the first of the year.
Okay.
Because I do usually open around that time, or at least that was when I did my first opening. And I know that a lot of people are looking to make a lot of big changes the first of the year. So
That
good
makes
time,
sense.
good time to
Right.
get started.
Yes. Explain, is it cohorts you're doing? Is it 12 weeks or how does it work?
It's a 12-week course. And so we do the 12 weeks worth of coaching as a weekly email. And that comes with some worksheets and a video that's usually about 10 to 15 minutes. So I try to make it really small because I know that a lot of people don't have a lot of time, or they will feel too overwhelmed to open it. So we want to make it in manageable bite-sized pieces.
Right. And then the group session, or is that all for all of the coaching that you do, even the one-on-one and the group, or they get the emails?
So if you wanted to focus on something that I've got a course for, so either the Calm the Chaos, which was the other course that I've done, or the Parenting ADHD, then we can set that up to continue to be through a weekly email, even if you didn't join at the first part of a cohort, if you're doing individual coaching.
Okay, I see. All right. So you have a January cohort and then a second one during the year? Or
So I try to do something quarterly.
okay.
And this year, the Parenting ADHD one was, there was more interest in that one. So I've offered it twice this year.
All right. Wonderful. So if they don't catch you in January, they can catch you sometime else during the year.
Absolutely. And I'm envisioning that maybe at some point down the road, I will release the courses as standalone, but I want to make sure that all the kinks are worked out. And, as we do some coaching with each of these cohorts, if they see anything that needs to be tweaked a little bit, we'll get that tweaked before we leave it as a standalone course for people to purchase.
Right. And you can always, update and just keep tweaking, tweaking it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, how do people find you? What's the best way to get in touch with you or find you online?
So I am in the social media realm. I am most active on Facebook, and you can search for my name. I've got my personal profile, and then I've got the business page. The business page is Dr. Anonymous Coaching - Crystal Vernon. And then my personal profile is just Crystal Vernon there. And then the email is dr.anonymous.coaching@gmail.com. And then the website is dranonymouscoaching.com.
I think people can remember this. I think if you just Google Dr. Anonymous, I can't imagine there's more than you. Is there?
Well, there is a little bit. Apparently there was a psychiatrist many moons ago who went by the name Dr. Anonymous. I believe it was a psychiatrist. But it's really interesting because when you try to Google anything that's like physician related, it tries to send you to a specific person or disease state. And it's really hard to find stuff that's labeled Dr. something. I found when I was trying to come up with a name. Because when you try to look for physician, ADHD coach, or even a parent coach for physicians, it's oftentimes just going to send you to an ADHD page or a disease process page rather than than a service for physicians.
Right. I think it just doesn't understand.
Right. I think it thinks you're looking for a physician and not that you are a physician looking for a service that was specifically directed for physicians. So
well,
that has been a challenging piece of trying to get into searches.
It sounds like an SEO thing. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I do want to get into your course later this year if everything works well with this.
Sounds great.
Step by step.
Happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to DPC Life. If today's conversation inspired you, hit follow, leave a review, and share it with a friend who's ready for change. Remember, wherever you are in the journey, your DPC family has your back. Until next time, keep building a practice and a life that truly fits you. This show is brought to you by DPC Ads in Minutes and Harmony Ops Health, helping independent doctors like you grow and thrive.